The screen in front of me was still playing the feed when my hand stopped shaking enough to turn it off. 10 million people. Gone. Not in a war we started. Not in a battle we chose. The Veiled Dominion had opened fire on Colony Haven from orbit, and they had done it live, streamed to every species in the Galactic network, as if it were a lesson for the rest of us to watch and learn from. I was sitting in the communications bay on the outpost station Meridian when it happened. My name is Callum Ashford, and until that morning, my job was simple. Relay signals. Keep the lines open between Earth Command and the outer colonies. I was not a soldier. I was not trained for what came next, but none of us were. Not really. Not for something like this. The feed did not cut away. The Dominion wanted us to see everything. The fire from their ships, the silence that followed. They wanted humanity to understand what happens to those who refuse to hand over the resource routes we had spent decades building through fair trade and quiet diplomacy. They thought this would be the end of the conversation. They thought we would kneel. We did not speak. That was the strange part. The part that unsettled everyone watching, including me. There was no press conference. No angry broadcast from Earth Command demanding surrender or threatening revenge. Every human channel across every colony went quiet at the exact same hour. Even our entertainment networks stopped broadcasting. It was as if the entire species had taken one breath and held it. I remember calling my supervisor, a calm woman named Priya Whitlock, asking her what we were supposed to do, what we were supposed to say to the colonies still waiting for guidance. She only said one sentence to me before the line cut. Wait for the order. I did not understand what she meant until 3 days later. Word came through classified channels, not to the public, but to stations like mine that handled sensitive relay traffic. Earth's fleets, the ones everyone assumed were small, aging, and mostly ceremonial, had never actually been small at all. For 20 years, since the first contact incidents on the frontier, Earth had been building something we kept hidden behind ordinary trade ships and quiet diplomatic missions. Every alliance we signed, every treaty we negotiated, had bought us time. Time to build. Time to prepare for exactly the kind of moment the Veiled Dominion had just handed us. I found this out because I was the one who had to relay the activation codes to 12 fleet commanders scattered across 3 star systems. My hands were steady by then. Something in me had gone cold and certain, the way people describe feeling before they do something they know they cannot undo. The commander closest to my station was a man named Desmond Okafor, running the strike group stationed near the edge of neutral space. When his ship linked to my station for confirmation, his voice came through calm, almost gentle. Confirm the order, Ashford. I confirmed it. What followed was not what the Veiled Dominion expected. They believed we would fracture, that our colonies would turn on Earth Command in fear and anger, demanding peace at any price. Instead, every human fleet moved with the kind of coordination that only comes from years of quiet planning. It was not chaos. It was a machine that had been built slowly, patiently, and was finally allowed to move. I watched it unfold from my station, piecing together fragments of encrypted reports as they came through. Earth had not only built ships. We had built something the Dominion never accounted for. A network of listening posts hidden inside neutral trade routes, gathering information on their command structure for years under the guise of simple merchant traffic. We knew where their fleets were stationed. We knew their supply lines. We knew, most importantly, where their leadership gathered to celebrate what they believed was a victory. Priya came back on my line that night, her voice tight but steady. They are going to broadcast this too, she said. Command wants the galaxy to see what happens next, just like they did. I asked her if that was wise, showing our own strength so openly. She said something I have never forgotten. They showed the galaxy our grief, now we show them our resolve. Let every species watching decide for themselves which one they respect more. The counterstrike began at dawn, station time, though of course there is no true dawn in open space, only the artificial rhythm we keep to remind ourselves we are still human. I was assigned to the communications relay for the operation, translating fleet signals into a single feed that would be broadcast across the same galactic network the Dominion had used against us. I will not pretend I felt nothing watching it. I felt the same fear I had felt watching Colony Haven fall, except this time it was aimed the other way. Our fleets moved with precision that surprised even the officers overseeing the operation. Desmond Okafor's strike group reached the Dominion's forward command station within hours, faster than any of their scouts had reported possible. What made it different from what they had done to us was the restraint. Earth Command gave the Dominion's command staff a choice: stand down and withdraw from every contested colony route, or face the same fleet that had just crossed half a sector in a single night. I remember the silence on the comm channels while we waited for their answer. 10 seconds. 30. A full minute passed before their response came through. And it was not the arrogant tone from before. It was quiet, almost confused. They had never imagined we could move that fast, that we had been ready for this exact moment for years, hiding strength behind patience because patience, to them, looked like weakness. The Dominion's command fleet chose to resist anyway, perhaps out of pride, perhaps because they still believed reinforcements would arrive in time. They did not. What followed was not the massacre they had broadcast days earlier. Earth Command had learned something from watching that broadcast too, something about restraint even in victory. Our fleets disabled their command ships one by one, stripping their ability to fight without turning the encounter into the same kind of spectacle the Dominion had made of Colony Haven. There was no celebration on our channels, no triumphant music, no proud declarations, just quiet, steady work, ship by ship, until the Dominion's fleet had no choice left but to withdraw. I remember the moment the final confirmation came through my station. Desmond's voice again, quieter this time. "It is done, Ashford. Tell command the route is secured." I sat there for a long moment before I could type the message. 10 million people were still gone. Nothing that happened that night would bring them back. But something had shifted across the galaxy, something I could feel even through the cold distance of a communications relay. Other species, ones who had always seen humanity as reactive, emotional, easy to provoke and easier to underestimate, were watching a different story unfold now. Not one of anger, one of patience finally spent, and precision that followed. In the weeks after, I met people who had lost family on Colony Haven. A woman named Odette Marchetti worked 2 stations down from mine, and she had lost her younger brother in the attack. She did not celebrate what happened to the Dominion fleet. She told me once, sitting in the mess hall with a cup of something that had long gone cold, that revenge does not fill the space someone leaves behind. It only proves that the space matters enough to defend. I think about that a lot now. The Galactic Council, the loose alliance of species that had watched the entire event unfold, sent formal inquiries to Earth Command in the days that followed, careful and measured, very different from the dismissive tone they had used with human representatives before. They wanted to understand how a species they had considered minor, even fragile, had absorbed such a loss and responded with such control. I do not think they ever got a full answer, because the truth was simple and impossible for them to imagine. We had been afraid for so long, quietly, patiently, that we built something strong enough to make sure we never had to be afraid again. Desmond Okafor was given a formal commendation, though I heard through Priya that he refused most of the ceremony surrounding it. He said the only people who deserved recognition were the ones who never got the chance to see the outcome, the 10 million who were gone before any of us understood what we were capable of. I stayed at my post on Meridian Station for another year after that. The Dominion withdrew from every contested route, and for the first time since first contact, human colonies expanded without needing to look over their shoulder every hour. It was not peace exactly. It was something more careful than that, a kind of respect built from fear and proof rather than trust. But it was enough to let people rebuild, enough to let families on the frontier plant crops again, without wondering if the next ship in orbit would be friendly. Sometimes I still think about that first broadcast, the one that started everything. I think about how the Dominion believed silence meant surrender, when really it meant something they had never encountered before, a species holding its breath, not out of fear, but because it was finally ready to act instead of speak. Priya told me once, near the end of my posting, that history would probably remember it as the day everything changed for humanity in the eyes of the galaxy. I told her I thought it would be remembered differently by the people who lived through it. Not as the day everything changed, but as the day the waiting finally ended, and the quiet patience we had carried for so long finally had somewhere to go. 10 million people never got to see what came after, but the rest of us did, and I think in the end, that was the only answer worth giving.